The signal from the star's commander, Elena Hayes, stood at the viewport of Orbital Station Sentinel, watching Earth rotate slowly beneath her. 20 years of service in the Earth Defense Force had trained her to maintain composure in the face of danger. But the message they'd just received had rattled even her steady nerves. "Run it again," she ordered, turning back to the communications hub where Lieutenant Marcus Chen hunched over a console, his fingers dancing across holographic controls. "This is the 14th playback, Commander," Chen said, but complied nonetheless. The message filled the air once more, not with words or images, but with a pattern of pulses that somehow conveyed desperation. It had arrived 3 days ago, detected by the long-range sensors at the edge of the solar system. The signal originated from the Cygnus arm, approximately 30 light-years away, from a civilization humanity had never contacted before. "And we're certain it's a distress call?" Hayes asked, though she already knew the answer. The pattern matched. Nothing in Earth's considerable xenolinguistic database, but its increasing tempo and intensity spoke a universal language. "Help us." "The science division is unanimous," Chen confirmed. "Director Okafor says the mathematical sequence embedded in the signal is too precise to be natural. Someone sent this deliberately, and they wanted to make absolutely sure even species with different communication methods would recognize it as urgent." Hayes nodded, her mind already calculating possibilities. Earth had encountered 17 different alien civilizations in the century since humans had ventured beyond their solar system. Most kept their distance, maintaining diplomatic but cool relations with the dangerous apes from Sol 3. The door to the command center hissed open, and Admiral William Donovan stepped in. At 73, he was one of the few remaining veterans of First Contact, his weathered face a testament to decades of navigating humanity's precarious position in the galactic community. "The Security Council has reached a decision," Donovan announced without preamble. Hayes straightened. "I assume we're sending a response team?" "Not just a team," Donovan replied, activating the central holographic display. A tactical projection materialized, showing hundreds of vessels arranged in formation. "We're sending the 7th Fleet, all of it." Hayes blinked in surprise. "The entire 7th? That's nearly a third of our deep space combat capability." "The Council voted 13-2 in favor," Donovan said. "We've been waiting 50 years for an opportunity like this." "An opportunity, sir?" Chen asked, confusion evident in his voice. Hayes understood immediately. "An opportunity to show the galaxy we're more than what they think we are." Donovan nodded. "Precisely. You know what they call us out there, don't you? Behind all the diplomatic pleasantries?" "Deathworlders," Hayes answered quietly. The term had become common knowledge among Earth's military and diplomatic corps, a classification applied to species that evolved on planets with high gravity, extreme weather patterns, dangerous predators, and extensive competition for resources. Earth, with its diverse biomes, natural disasters, and evolutionary history of predator-prey dynamics, qualified as a Class 4 death world. Among the known spacefaring species, only humanity had emerged from such a demanding crucible. "They fear us," Donovan continued. "Our strength, our adaptability, our capacity for violence. Most species evolved in stable environments with limited threats. They developed technology before they developed the capacity to tear each other apart with their bare hands." Hayes had heard this assessment before. Humans possessed approximately 3 times the physical strength of the galactic average, could survive temperature variations that would kill most other sentient species, and had evolved as persistent predators with remarkable endurance. Add to that humanity's notorious tendency toward risk-taking and their millennia of warfare experience, and it was little wonder that the galactic community maintained a cautious distance. "This signal changes everything," Donovan said, gesturing toward Chen's console. "Someone out there is desperate enough to broadcast an open plea for help across dozens of light years, and we're going to answer it." "Do we know what they're facing?" Hayes asked. "No," Donovan admitted. "But whatever it is, it must be catastrophic. The signal has been transmitted continuously for approximately 6 local months, according to our analysis of the wave degradation." 6 months, Hayes whispered. They've been calling for half a year with no response. We weren't the only ones who received it, Donovan said grimly. Our intelligence suggests at least 14 other spacefaring civilizations detected the same signal. None have mobilized a significant response force. Hayes felt a surge of indignation. They're just going to ignore it? Most are sending observer vessels or small diplomatic contingents. The Rhaegar Conclave explicitly cited non-interference doctrine in their public statement. Donovan's expression hardened. But we're sending warships. Because that's what humans do, Hayes said, understanding. We run toward the fire, not away from it. Exactly. Donovan expanded the holographic display, highlighting a massive vessel at the center of the formation. The EDF Prometheus will serve as command ship. You'll be in charge of the operation, Commander. Your field promotion to Admiral takes effect immediately. Hayes felt her breath catch. Sir, there are more senior. Donovan interrupted. But none more qualified. You understand both combat tactics and first contact protocols better than anyone else in the service. The mission requires both. Hayes straightened, accepting the enormous responsibility being placed on her shoulders. When do we depart? 72 hours, Donovan replied. We're recalling personnel and loading supplies now. Every ship is being equipped with extended-range FTL drives. Even so, it will take 17 days to reach the signal source at maximum sustainable velocity. And our mission parameters? Render assistance to whoever sent the distress call. Determine the nature of the threat. And... Donovan paused, his voice softening slightly. Show them what humanity really is. Not just our strength, but our compassion, our willingness to help strangers, even at great risk to ourselves. Hayes nodded, already mentally preparing for the task ahead. I'll need to review the fleet roster and begin planning our approach strategy. I've already had the files transferred to your secure terminal, Donovan said. Choose your command. Staff carefully, Admiral Hayes. I have a feeling this mission will define humanity's place in the galaxy for generations to come. As Donovan departed, Hayes turned back to the viewport, Earth's blue expanse spinning slowly below. What awaited them 30 light-years away? What kind of threat could be so terrible that it would drive an unknown civilization to broadcast a desperate plea across the stars? And more importantly, would humanity's reputation as dangerous Deathworlders hinder their efforts to help? Or would it prove to be exactly what was needed? The massive launch bay of the EDF Prometheus hummed with activity as the final preparations for departure were made. The ship itself was a testament to human engineering. 3 kilometers of titanium graphene composite armor, antimatter catalyzed fusion drives, and enough firepower to reduce a small moon to rubble. It had been built during the brief but tense Proxima crisis 20 years earlier, a conflict that had ended in diplomatic resolution but left humanity with the most formidable warship in known space. Admiral Hayes walked the deck, inspecting equipment and speaking briefly with crew members. The Prometheus would carry 5,000 personnel, with another 55,000 distributed throughout the rest of the 7th Fleet's 189 vessels. It was an overwhelming show of force by any standard. But against an unknown threat, Hayes wasn't taking chances. Final. Systems check complete, Admiral. Reported Captain Sofia Rodriguez, the Prometheus's commanding officer. All vessels report ready for synchronized FTL jump. Hayes nodded, checking the time. Departure in 20 minutes. Is Dr. Okafor aboard? Yes, ma'am. The xenolinguistics team is set up in Laboratory Section 12. Good. Have her meet me on the E. Bridge. Hayes wanted Earth's foremost expert on alien communication directly involved in their approach strategy. If they were walking into a war zone, clear communication would be critical. As Hayes made her way to the command bridge, she passed through corridors filled with men and women preparing for a mission unlike any humanity had undertaken before. Some wore the standard blue-gray uniforms of the EDF. Others the distinctive red of medical personnel or the green of scientific divisions. All carried the weight of representing their species to whoever had sent the desperate call for help. The bridge of the Prometheus was a marvel of human technology, a hemisphere of transparent aluminum providing a 180-degree view of space, supplemented by holographic displays showing information from hundreds of sensors. Hayes took her position at the central command station, surveying the team that would help her navigate the challenges ahead. Dr. Amara Okafor joined her moments later, carrying a data tablet displaying the continuously repeating signal pattern. "We've made some progress decoding secondary patterns embedded in the main signal," she reported without preamble. "There appears to be positional data, not just the origin point, but specific coordinates within the system. They're telling us exactly where to go," Hayes mused. "Either they're very trusting or very desperate." "I believe it's the latter," Okafor replied. "The signal contains what we think are damage reports. If our interpretation is correct, they've lost multiple planetary settlements already." Hayes frowned. "To what?" "That's still unclear. The concept doesn't translate well. The closest approximation would be the hunger that moves between stars." An unsettling silence fell over the bridge as the implications sank in. Whatever awaited them wasn't a civil war or natural disaster. It was something that traveled through space and consumed worlds. "Minutes to synchronize jump, Admiral," announced the navigation officer. Hayes activated the fleet-wide communication system. "This is Admiral Hayes to all vessels of the 7th Fleet. In a few minutes we will make the jump to the Cygnus Arm in response to a distress call from an unknown civilization. We don't know what we'll find when we arrive, but we know our purpose: to help those in need." She paused, choosing her next words carefully. "Throughout the galaxy, humanity has a reputation. They call us Deathworlders. Dangerous, unpredictable creatures from a harsh planet. They're not wrong about where we come from or what we're capable of, but they've misunderstood why we are the way we are." Hayes looked around the bridge, meeting the eyes of her officers. "We didn't become strong for conquest. We became strong to survive. We didn't develop our adaptability to threaten others, but to overcome challenges. And we didn't master warfare because we love violence. We mastered it because we understand that sometimes you must fight to protect what matters." The countdown timer on the main display reached 5 minutes. "Today, someone needs protection. They've been calling for help for 6 months, and we are answering. Whatever we face, remember this: being from a death world doesn't make us monsters. It makes us uniquely qualified to face threats that others cannot. Earth didn't make us dangerous. It made us ready." Hayes straightened in her chair as the final countdown began. "Secure for FTL transition. All hands to jump stations." The enormous engines of the Prometheus hummed to life, vibrating through the hull as energy built to levels that would tear a hole in space-time itself. Throughout the fleet, 189 vessels synchronized their drive sequences, preparing to make the 17-day journey in formation. Jump in 3, 2, 1. In an instant, the stars blurred and stretched as the fleet pierced the barrier between normal space and the strange domain that allowed faster-than-light travel. The 7th Fleet vanished from Earth's solar system, carrying humanity's best and brightest toward an unknown peril, guided by nothing but a desperate plea from the stars. Behind them, Earth continued its serene rotation around the sun, unaware that its reputation as a death world was about to change the course of galactic history. First contact with the enemy, 17 days in FTL transit, gave Admiral Elena Hayes ample time to prepare for all possible scenarios: diplomatic, scientific, and military. But as the 7th Fleet dropped back into normal space at the coordinates embedded in the distress signal, she realized no amount of preparation could have readied them for what they now witnessed. "My God," whispered Captain Rodriguez as the
main view screen displayed their surroundings. They had emerged in a binary star system with 12 planets according to their astronomical database.
But where there should have been a vibrant civilization capable of sending interstellar distress calls, they found devastation on an unimaginable scale. The 4th planet, presumably the sender's homeworld based on the signal coordinates, was partially obscured by a swirling cloud of debris that had once been orbital stations and satellites. The planet itself showed enormous dark patches visible even from space, spreading like infection across its surface. "Multiple energy signatures detected," reported Lieutenant Commander Jackson at the tactical station. "Some match the signal pattern. They're coming from a cluster of vessels near the system's second moon." How many? Hayes asked, already formulating a defensive posture. 43 ships of varying size and configuration, Jackson replied. Scanning suggests at least 7 different construction styles. It's like a refugee fleet, Admiral. Hayes nodded grimly. And what about hostile? Contacts? Jackson's expression tightened. Hundreds, maybe thousands. Small craft about fighter-sized, swarming around the 6th planet, and something massive in orbit around it. I've never seen readings like these before. It's absorbing all our scanning frequencies. Put it on screen, Hayes ordered. The image shifted to show a distant planet surrounded by what at first appeared to be a dark cloud. But as the sensors focused, the cloud resolved into countless small objects moving, in coordinated patterns. Orbiting above them was something that defied easy description. A massive structure that seemed to shift and pulse, neither fully solid nor fully energy-based. It's consuming the planet, Dr. Okafor whispered, horror evident in her voice. Look, at the surface, those black areas are spreading in real time. Hayes watched in stunned silence as dark patches visibly expanded across the distant world. Something was literally eating the planet below, breaking it down into component materials and absorbing them. Admiral, we're being hailed by the refugee fleet, Chen reported. Text-only transmission in mathematical code. Dr. Okafor's translation algorithm is processing it now. Put it through as soon as it's ready, Hayes ordered, then turned to Jackson. How long until those hostiles detect our presence? Unknown, ma'am. They don't appear to be using conventional scanning technology. But given the energy output of our arrival, I'd estimate minutes at most. Hayes made her decision. Battle stations. All vessels form protective perimeter around the Prometheus. Launch scout drones toward the hostile formation but maintain fleet distance. And get me a direct channel to those refugees. The bridge erupted into controlled activity as officers relayed commands throughout the massive vessel and to the surrounding fleet. Warning klaxons sounded and the lighting shifted to the red hue of combat readiness. Translation complete, Chen announced. Message reads, Unknown vessels, we are the last survivors of the Luminar Collective and 6 allied species. The Void. Swarm has consumed 3 systems. Our weapons are ineffective. If you cannot help, flee while you can. Hayes felt the weight of those desperate words. An entire civilization reduced to 43 ships, watching helplessly as their worlds were devoured. Send this response. This is Admiral Elena Hayes of the Earth Defense Force 7th Fleet. We received your distress call and have come to render assistance. Request immediate conference to coordinate defense. Can you rendezvous with our flagship? As they waited for a reply, the tactical display updated with new information from the scout drones. Admiral, the drones are sending back data on the hostile forces, Jackson reported, his voice tense. The smaller units appear to be biological but with metallic components integrated into their structures. They're approximately 20 meters long with what look like both natural and artificial weapon systems. Cyborgs? Hayes asked. More like assimilated technology, Jackson clarified, as if they've incorporated the weapons of whoever they've defeated. Dr. Okafor looked up from her console. That matches what we decoded from the distress call. The hunger that moves between stars. They don't just destroy, they consume and adapt. We have a response from the refugees, Chen interrupted. They're sending coordinates for a rendezvous, point behind the system's outermost moon. They say it should shield us from immediate detection. Plot course and proceed at half-thrust, Hayes ordered. I want all weapons powered but not targeted. If these void swarm entities are as adaptable as they appear, I don't want them studying our offensive capabilities before we engage. The massive Earth fleet moved in perfect formation toward the rendezvous point, maintaining sensor lock on both the refugee ships and the distant hostile swarm. Hayes used the time to review the data streaming in from their long-range scans, and with each new piece of information, the gravity of the situation became clearer. The Void Swarm wasn't just destroying planets, it was systematically harvesting them for resources and technology, integrating anything useful into its collective body. And it was growing. Admiral, Rodriguez said quietly, approaching Hayes's command station. The refugee fleet is badly damaged, I'm seeing hull breaches on multiple vessels, makeshift repairs, and dangerously unstable power signatures. Whatever they faced, they barely escaped with their lives. Hayes nodded. Prepare medical and engineering teams for potential evacuation and support operations. I want our shuttles ready to transfer supplies as soon as we make contact. As the Earth fleet maneuvered behind the distant moon, the refugee vessels came into clearer view. They were indeed a hodgepodge of different designs, some elegant and clearly built for peaceful purposes, others more utilitarian. All showed signs of desperate combat and hasty repairs. We're being hailed again, Chen reported. Video transmission this time. On screen, Hayes ordered, straightening her uniform as she prepared for humanity's first face-to-face contact with the Luminar. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a being unlike any humans had encountered before. The Luminar representative had a vaguely humanoid shape, but was composed of what appeared to be crystalline structures that emitted a soft blue light from within. Where a human would have a face, the Luminar had a cluster of geometric patterns that shifted subtly as it spoke. Greetings, Earth vessels, the Luminar said, its words translated through Dr. Okafor's system. I am Sentinel Eric's last commander of the Luminar Defense Forces. Your arrival is unexpected. Hayes stepped forward. Sentinel Eric's, I am Admiral Elena Hayes. Earth received your distress call and we've come to help. The crystalline patterns on Eric's face rearranged in what might have been an expression of surprise. You came to help? Not merely to observe or salvage? We brought our battle fleet. Hayes replied simply. We intend to stop this void swarm if possible, or at minimum, ensure your people's safety. There was a pause as Eric seemed to confer with others off-screen. Admiral Hayes, we must meet in person. There is much to explain about the enemy we face. Can you receive a delegation aboard your vessel? Of course. We'll prepare a shuttle to... No need, Eric's interrupted. We have short-range matter transfer capability. With your permission, we will send 3 representatives directly to your ship. Hayes nodded, though the idea of unknown aliens teleporting aboard her command vessel made her security instincts flare. Granted. We'll prepare a reception area in our main conference room. 30 minutes later, Hayes stood in the Prometheus's conference chamber as 3 distinct aliens materialized in a shimmer of light. Eric's was accompanied by 2 others, one a being that appeared to be composed of interlocking plant matter with flowers blooming across its surface, the other, a short, stocky creature with metallic exoskeletal plates and multiple limbs. Admiral Hayes, Eric said, the crystalline formations on its face flowing into new patterns. May I present Gardner Thalo of the Verdant Communion and Engineer Commander Crix of the Artisan Collective. Hayes nodded to each. Welcome aboard the EDF Prometheus. I've assembled my senior staff and scientific advisors to discuss the situation. Dr. Okafor stepped forward, her eyes wide with professional curiosity, despite the dire circumstances. Your matter transfer technology is remarkable. Our scientists have theorized such capabilities, but we've never achieved practical implementation. The small metallic alien, Crix, made a series of clicking sounds that the translator rendered as laughter. Yet you've mastered faster than light. Travel on a scale we've never seen. 189 vessels of such size. The Void Swarm will find you a formidable meal indeed. Hayes noted the fatalistic tone. We didn't come here to be consumed, Commander Crix. We came to fight. As did we all, said the plant being Thalo, its voice rustling like leaves in wind. 6 civilizations united their forces against the swarm. We brought technology that had kept peace in this sector for millennia. It proved inadequate. Eric's gestured toward the conference table. Please let us sit. There is much to explain and little time. The swarm has almost finished with the 6th planet. When it does, it will seek new resources to consume. As they seated themselves, holographic displays activated, showing detailed information about the Void Swarm gathered from the refugees' encounters. The entity you face is unlike anything recorded in our histories, Eric's began. It appeared at the edge of Luminar space approximately 1 local year ago, a small cluster of organisms that we initially believed to be a new spacefaring species. We attempted communication. The crystalline patterns on Eric's face darkened. That was our first mistake. They absorbed your communication technology? Hayes guessed. Crix's metallic plates shifted in what might have been a nod. And the communication vessel itself. The swarm doesn't just destroy, it incorporates. Any technology, any biological material it encounters becomes part of its collective. More concerning, added Thalo, is its intelligence. Each time it consumes, it grows smarter. It learns from what it absorbs. When it took our agricultural world Verdant III, it gained knowledge of our plant manipulation techniques. Now parts of the swarm can accelerate their growth using photosynthetic processes they never possessed before. Hayes leaned forward. So, it's not just getting bigger, it's evolving. Precisely, Eric's confirmed. And it adapts to attacks with frightening speed. The first time we used particle beam weapons, we destroyed nearly 30% of its mass. The second time, only 5%. By the third engagement, it had developed reflective shielding that made our beams useless. That's why we sent the distress call, Crix explained. We realized our only hope was to find species with different technologies, different approaches that the swarm hadn't encountered yet. We sent the signal to 17 known civilizations, Thalo added. Some acknowledged receipt but declined intervention. Others sent scientific vessels to observe from a safe distance. None committed military forces. The flowers across Thalo's surface wilted slightly. Until now. Hayes exchanged glances with her officers. The implication was clear. Humanity was the only species that had responded with substantial force. Tell me about your weapons, Eric said, the patterns on its face shifting rapidly. We must determine if they are unlike what the swarm has already adapted to. Hayes gestured to her tactical officer, who activated a new set of holographic displays showing the Earth Fleet's primary armaments. Our main combat vessels are equipped with magnetically accelerated kinetic weapons, fusion-tipped missiles, directed, energy weapons in various spectrums, and razor technology, radiation amplification by stimulated emission of resonance. The three aliens studied the displays with intense interest. Primitive but powerful, Crix muttered, though the translator gave the word primitive a contextual note suggesting it wasn't meant as an insult. The swarm has encountered energy weapons before, but perhaps not these specific types. And kinetic weapons. Yes, those might be effective initially. How did you fight it? Asked Hayes. Show me your tactics, your formations. Eric's activated a recording showing sleek, crystalline vessels arranged in geometric patterns, firing coordinated beams at sections of the swarm. The Earth officers watched as the swarm initially recoiled from the assault, only to surge back with greater resilience moments later. We attacked in harmony, Eric's explained. Perfect coordination, mathematical precision, was the Luminar way. Hayes studied the recording with a tactical eye. That's the problem, she said finally. You were too predictable. Perfect patterns, synchronized attacks. Once the swarm analyzed your approach, it could anticipate every move. The aliens exchanged glances. How would you fight differently? Asked Thalo. Before Hayes could answer, alarms blared throughout the ship. Admiral, Lieutenant Chen's voice came over the comm system. The swarm has detected us. Multiple contacts breaking away from the sixth planet and accelerating toward our position. Hayes was on her feet instantly. How many? At least 300 smaller units and something larger. Much larger. It appears to be a primary control node nearly 5 kilometers in length. Time to intercept? 22 minutes at current velocity. Hayes turned to the alien representatives. We're out of time for discussion. Return to your vessels and maintain position behind our fleet. We'll engage the swarm and see if our weapons have any effect. Admiral Hayes, Eric said urgently, the light within its crystalline body pulsing with intensity. You don't understand what you're facing. It doesn't think like organic life. It doesn't feel fear or pain. It only hungers and adapts. Then we'll give it something new to adapt to, Hayes replied grimly. The full might of a Deathworld species. As the aliens teleported back to their ships, Hayes returned to the bridge, where the tactical display showed the approaching swarm forces. They moved with unnatural coordination, like a single organism rather than hundreds of individual units. All vessels assume combat formation Delta, Hayes ordered. Cruiser groups 1 through 4 establish perimeter defense. Destroyer squadrons prepare staggered attack runs. Fighter wings launch and maintain defensive screen. The massive Earth fleet shifted into position with practiced precision. Unlike the geometric perfection of the luminar formations, the human vessels arranged themselves in seemingly chaotic patterns designed to prevent predictability. "Admiral," Captain Rodriguez said quietly as they watched the approaching enemy, "traditional engagement protocols dictate we should attempt communication before initiating hostilities." Hayes shook her head. "They're not here to talk, Captain. They're here to feed." She activated the fleet-wide channel. "All vessels, this is Admiral Hayes. In approximately 18 minutes, we will engage an enemy unlike any humanity has faced before. An enemy that has already consumed multiple worlds and defeated several advanced civilizations." She paused, watching the swarm of alien vessels growing larger on the tactical display. "They call us Deathworlders," she continued. "They say we come from a harsh planet that made us dangerous. Today we prove them right. Today we show this void swarm what it means to face creatures evolved to survive against all odds. Weapons free. Fire at will when they enter optimal range." As the first wave of swarm units crossed into weapons range, the Earth fleet erupted, with devastating firepower. Kinetic rounds accelerated to relativistic speeds tore through the frontrunners, while energy weapons carved brilliant patterns of destruction across the vacuum. For a moment, it seemed the swarm was unprepared for the ferocity and variety of human weapons. Dozens, then hundreds of the smaller units were obliterated in the opening salvo. But then the swarm adapted. The units began moving erratically, no longer in predictable formations. Some sprouted energy shields that deflected subsequent attacks. Others released clouds of metallic particles that absorbed energy weapon discharges. "They're learning," Dr. Okafor said, watching the tactical display with growing concern. "Already evolving countermeasures." "Then we change tactics," Hayes ordered. "All vessels execute pattern chaos, randomize weapon selections and firing patterns." The Earth fleet responded immediately, each ship altering its attack approach and weapon usage in unpredictable ways. Some fired synchronized salvos, others maintained continual fire. Some targeted the same enemies, others spread their attacks across multiple targets. For a time, this approach seemed to work. The swarm couldn't adapt to what it couldn't predict. But as the battle progressed, the massive control node at the center of the enemy formation began to pulse with ominous energy. "Energy spike detected from the primary node," Jackson called out. "It's charging some kind of..." Before he could finish, a wave of coruscating energy swept outward from the control node, washing over the closest Earth vessels. 3 destroyers and a cruiser went dark instantly, their systems completely disabled. "EMP effect," Rodriguez reported. "But unlike anything in our records, it's not just disrupting electronics, it's corrupting system architectures." "Target that node with everything we've got," Hayes ordered. "All missile batteries, all main guns. I want it destroyed before it can fire again." The Earth fleet concentrated its firepower on the massive control structure, pouring enough destructive energy into it to shatter a small moon. For a moment, it seemed to shrink back, its surface rippling like disturbed water. Then it changed. The smooth surface of the node fractured into thousands of smaller components that scattered in all directions, evading the concentrated fire. Simultaneously, the smaller swarm units began to transform, their structures shifting to incorporate features that looked disturbingly like Earth weapons. "They're not just adapting," Hayes realized with growing horror. "They're replicating our technology, turning it against us." Swarm units now fired kinetic projectiles of their own, while others emitted energy beams that matched the frequency of Earth's laser weapons. What had begun as an overwhelming human advantage was rapidly becoming a desperate struggle for survival. "Admiral," Chen called out, "the Luminar vessels are moving. They're placing themselves between us and the swarm." Hayes watched in disbelief as the 43 refugee ships advanced, forming a barrier between Earth's fleet and the approaching enemy. "Admiral Hayes," Eric's voice came through the communication system. "You fought bravely, but we understand. This enemy better than you. You cannot win this battle today, not here, not like this. We will create a distraction while you withdraw to the system's edge." "We didn't come all this way to retreat," Hayes replied firmly. "This isn't retreat, Admiral," Eric's countered. "It's survival. The swarm doesn't just want to destroy you, it wants to consume you, learn from you. If it absorbs your technology and tactics, it will become even more unstoppable." Hayes watched as the refugee ships began emitting strange energy fields, creating a shimmering barrier between the fleets. "We don't abandon allies," she insisted. "We're not asking you to," Eric's replied. "We're asking you to fight smarter, regroup, analyze what you've learned, find the swarm's weakness. It has adapted to face Deathworlders now, but perhaps there is something else it hasn't encountered yet." As if to emphasize Eric's point, a fresh wave of swarm units broke through the perimeter, swarming around 3 Earth cruisers. Where they touched the hulls, the metal itself seemed to dissolve, absorbed into the alien bodies. "Admiral," Rodriguez urged, "we've lost 18 vessels already. The swarm is adapting faster than we can change tactics." Hayes clenched her jaw, every instinct rebelling against the thought of withdrawal, but tactical reality couldn't be denied. They had underestimated this enemy, and the cost was mounting by the second. "All vessels execute tactical retreat to coordinates Omega," she ordered finally. "Maximum thrust, maintain defensive fire during withdrawal." As the Earth fleet disengaged, the refugee ships intensified their energy barrier, buying precious time for the human vessels to break contact. Several of the alien ships were visibly coming apart under the swarm's assault, sacrificing themselves to cover the retreat. Hayes watched the tactical display with a mixture of gratitude and rage as the 7th Fleet pulled back to the system's edge, far enough to regroup but close enough to maintain sensor contact with the battle zone. "Status report," she demanded, once they had established a defensive perimeter at the new position. 26 vessels destroyed or disabled," Rodriguez replied grimly. 14 more reporting major damage. Casualty reports still coming in, but preliminary estimates suggest over 2,000 dead or missing. Hayes absorbed the devastating news in silence. Then, "What about the refugee fleet?" 17 vessels confirmed destroyed, Chen reported. "The remainder have broken contact and are regrouping near our position. But Admiral, their sacrifice bought us time. If they hadn't intervened when they did." He didn't need to finish. Hayes knew the 7th Fleet might have been annihilated completely. "Get me Sentinel Eric's," she ordered. Moments later, the crystalline alien appeared on the view screen. Even through the distortion of the transmission, Hayes could see that Eric's internal light had dimmed considerably. "Your people paid a terrible price for our retreat," Hayes said, not bothering to hide the emotion in her voice. "I won't forget that sacrifice." "We did what was necessary," Eric's replied. "As you must now do, Admiral. The swarm will finish consuming what remains of the 6th planet, then it will come for us again. Stronger, smarter, having absorbed both your weapons and our defensive systems. Then we need to hit it with something it has never seen before," Hayes said. "Something it can't adapt to." Hayes turned to her senior staff, who had gathered on the bridge during the withdrawal. "I need options. Unconventional, unprecedented options. What can a Deathworld species bring to this fight that the swarm hasn't encountered yet?" For a moment there was silence. Then Dr. Okafor spoke up. "What about pathogens?" she suggested. "Earth-evolved bacteria and viruses. The swarm is partly biological. If it's incorporating and adapting, perhaps it could inadvertently absorb something harmful to its structure." Lieutenant Foster, the pilot who had been silent until now, added. "Or what about extreme environmental conditions? We evolved to handle massive temperature variations and atmospheric pressures. Maybe we could force the swarm into an environment it can't adapt to quickly enough." "Radiation," said Commander Jackson. "Earth species have adapted to survive radiation levels that would kill most life forms. We could detonate specialized nuclear devices within the swarm's mass." Hayes nodded. feeling a glimmer of hope for the first time since the battle began. All good suggestions, but I think we need to go further. If the swarm adapts to specific threats, then we need to present it with too many different threats to counter simultaneously. She turned to the view screen where Eric's waited. Sentinel, was your species aware of Earth's evolutionary history before we arrived? We knew you came from a Class 4 death world, Eric's replied. It is why many were hesitant about your involvement, but we had few details beyond classification. Hayes nodded. Then there's a good chance the swarm has never encountered anything like us before today. We need to use that to our advantage. Not just our technology, but our thinking, our approach to survival. She turned back to her officers. I want every department working on this problem. Medical teams develop biological countermeasures. Engineering, find ways to disrupt the swarm's ability to absorb and analyze. Tactical, develop randomized attack patterns that change faster than the swarm can adapt. As her officers dispersed to implement her orders, Hayes remained on the bridge, staring at the tactical display where the remnants of the Luminar civilization huddled near Earth's fleet. Today had been a sobering lesson in the true nature of the threat they faced. But it was also a reminder of why Earth had sent its fleet in the first place. Sometimes the most dangerous species were the ones who refused to let others face extinction alone.